Welcome, everybody, to Let's Talk About the Real Shit with Lori and Naomi.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, and we have a special guest today, and his name is Lucas Littlefield. Introduce yourself, Lucas.
Hey, everybody. This is Lucas here. I'm a current Portland resident. Grew up in Idaho. Known Naomi for a couple decades
20
now.
years,
yeah,
at least.
And I'm super excited to be here. I think they've got a really good thing going right now with this idea and where they intend to go with it. And I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
Thank you, Lucas, for coming. We
Thank
really
you,
appreciate
Lucas.
it. It's always awesome seeing an old friend.
Yeah.
So, just as he was saying, I think that that's actually a really good place to start tonight and with our intention. And something that we want to kind of raise or set the bar at for what we would like to see for the real shit is a safe place for everybody to start having conversations that we feel need to be had. We don't talk about it enough. And we would like a place where we can respect each other's truth. That is super, super important.
No judgment.
No judgment.
Yeah.
And we really do just want a place where we can learn from each other. So, I mean, I have these moments. I do rideshare for a living, and I have these moments with people today, guys. And I've actually had something that has come up a lot this week, and I would like to talk about it tonight. And that is changing your words or changing how you communicate with people. And we've had, I do the morning commute, and so I'm taking a lot of people to work in the morning. And so I actually comes up quite a bit from a lot of different jobs and a lot of different people. And it's something that I wanted to ask you guys tonight to talk about what your thoughts are and about misusing your words, text messaging. You know how it goes. We've all been there.
Yeah, misusing words or maybe misreading
Oh, yeah, that's a
text.
big one.
Misreading text or putting your own emotion into somebody's text that maybe is not being sent to you through that text. These can be huge stumbling blocks, and they can lead to people having conversations that maybe don't even need to be had at that point in time just because of a simple miscommunication.
Oh, yeah, and it's like the simple ones, too, It's like, okay.
Yeah, I think, first of all, this is a great topic. Everybody I know has a phone. Everybody I know texts, and it's hard when you're trying to communicate emotions through text. You can emoji the bejesus out of a message, but
I don't even understand some of the emojis.
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. There needs to be a code book for the code book,
Or the abbreviations.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm in my 40s, everybody, and there's a lot of times if somebody sends me an abbreviation, I'm like, what does that mean? And so my head goes to all these really funny places with letters.
I do that too, Naomi, and I've got a few years on you.
Yeah.
So imagine.
How old are you, Lucas, again?
I'm 41, so
41.
I'm right there with
So
you.
you're only a year younger than me. That's awesome.
Oh my God, you kids.
They update the dictionary every year with words. Sometimes new words get developed or come out of something. Computer wasn't a word, hundreds of years ago kind of thing. And LOL has been accepted as a word in the dictionary, and it doesn't.
Really?
And the definition is not laugh out loud. It's more
Love, or lots of love. Is that what it is?
well, no, it's more. It's created kind of its own meaning. So if somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to the store later," LOL. It's more like their own personal, like, hey, I'm going to the store later, man. gonna get some cigarettes or whatever.
I always say
Yeah.
ha if I'm going to do that. I always thought that LOL meant lots of love
I
originally.
did too in the beginning.
Maybe that's I don't know, maybe our...
I thought people were
That's our
sending me
kids
so
telling
much
us
love.
that. It means lots of love, Mom.
And they were like laughing at me. I'm like, all right, or laughing at themselves. I don't care. Either one's okay.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I actually pulled up some articles, you guys, and this one was actually talking about misreading text messages when you're in a relationship. And I'm going to try to read one. I do not have my glasses, but I'm going to go for it. Okay, so the first one is, okay. Just okay. So this is great because it definitely goes to where your head goes. So intended meaning is, yes, the last thing you said is completely fine with me. I have absolutely no problem with it. So that's really what you meant to say when you said, okay.
Okay.
But this is the misinterpreted meaning. Well, that's just fine. Let's just do what you want, because that's all we ever do. I mean, why would I want us to do something that I can enjoy for once? That would be just selfish and bring me some happiness. So why would we want to do that? Hey, on your way home, could you pick me up a leash and some bowls for my food and water and maybe some kind of toy I can chew on while you're at work? So it makes me laugh because our minds definitely warp things. And this is how most people are communicating now. Most people do not want to have conversations on the phone.
Well, a lot of
it makes them uncomfortable.
A lot of us, and that's kind of proof in the pudding, is that we're stuck in our own head. We're stuck in our own emotion. So we're taking our own negative emotion, whatever that is. I'm pissed at my boss. My kids are driving me crazy. I'm stuck in traffic. And we're putting that onto the text message.
We're reflecting what's happening in our own world. We're putting our own emotion on it.
Exactly.
And that's what we forget when we send a text message. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to say because we're lazy. Honestly, we're lazy with our grammar because everybody's as we said. We're super lazy. And so when we're doing that, we are not really communicating, and the person who's receiving it is for sure putting their own emotion on it. And it's probably not your emotion.
Exactly. And think of the person on the other end of that. The person that said okay is just like, I'm okay with that.
And we have no idea where that person that said okay is. Like, he could be taking a shit in the bathroom, trying to wipe. Or he could be in a business meeting. It's like his phone's under the table. Or
because that's the 15 minutes he gets at work. I saw something yesterday. I was looking at, I don't know, something on the internet. And it was like, people really relish their time in the bathroom these days.
I heard that on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the time that they get to actually look at their personal life on their phone.
Yeah, they get paid to shit at work, and it's their favorite 15 minutes of the day.
Right, because that's when they can connect with their own life or connect to the people in their life. And I thought, oh my God, what have we come to?
Isn't that super sad? That's another thing that's actually been coming up, and it's because I was just rocking out Joe Rogan's podcast about being lazy and trying to start your own business, and they're talking about people going to the daily grind every day and the soul-sucking job.
Yeah, the rat race.
The rat race that gets stuck in the Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, my favorite thing.
We refer to that a lot, but it's because we're older. The young ones probably have never even seen that movie, but you get wrapped up in the same routine every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. And then you get tired.
Right.
Also, you get tired, and it's not as easy as time goes on, I think, to get yourself out of that Groundhog Day. Yeah. And when you are unstuck too, you don't have a lot of motivation. We talk about depression, you just want to sleep when you're at home. You don't want to do anything. Engage with anybody, talk to anybody. That requires way too much emotional effort.
Yeah.
Well, you wake up in the morning with the list in your head of what you need to do, and it's just like you're exhausted before you even get out of bed.
Yeah.
To me, that's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
That's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see the reference. I mean, that makes sense. Where you get up, you do the same thing, go to bed just to get up and do it again, and like you're saying, Naomi, people they get tired. Physically, emotionally, like you get drained mentally.
Yeah.
And then the weekend, you try to get it all in, and like do all the things that you're going to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see mentions online, like it's, research says it's actually healthier to do 4 days of work a week instead of 5 or 6. There's all these applications of ourselves right now that seem to be out of balance, really out of balance. And I mean, more and more people, I feel the percentages are going up. I don't know the exact stat, but yeah, depression is one of those things.
Depression, mental illness.
Yeah.
Because we haven't been able to come from this place where we're nurturing our mental illness. I think going to therapy is a big deal. And
Absolutely.
we need to get rid of the stigma of, oh, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because you need to go to a therapist. It's like I always say, I go to therapy to deal with people who need therapy. I love my therapist. She's my little fairy. She's 20 years older than me. She's a mom. She's an empath. She gets me. She cries with me. I love her, but it took effort to find her. It's healthy to have these relationships. And so, I mean, I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, and I fought therapy just like everyone else.
Right.
I really did, because my whole family would always tell me that I needed it. And I just got super, super defensive. And it was kind of an interesting moment of how I ended up going to therapy. And that was because I have a pit bull, and I needed to protect my relationship with her because I've always had a dog. And it just happened to be that this breed was a pit bull this time. And they've always been my therapy dog because of, we'll talk about this later, but I did find my friend dead from suicide. And that was a very traumatic moment for me. And I should have gone to therapy 10 years ago when that happened, but I didn't. And so fighting for my relationship for my dog ended up making me find the most awesome therapist in all of the land. And I literally, you guys, worked my ass off to pay for therapy every 5 days. And I ended up working through some shit.
Right.
And now I'm like, I get it. I'm sorry. I totally get it.
Well, and I think you
But
found
it's conversation.
right. You found a therapist. But that's
the
what
conversation.
We're lacking.
For the part of healing is what? Starting the conversation.
And having somebody that will listen.
Yes. Objectively.
Listen to you, look you in the eye, listen to you, and not have their phone in their hand doing something else. It's being present.
Connected.
Present.
Yeah. They're giving a piece of themselves to
Exactly.
you. You find the right one, you guys. You're giving a piece of yourself to each other, and it's really special. Have you ever been to therapy, Lucas?
Yeah. It's really, really interesting that this is where this conversation kind of went. A couple years ago, my dog died. It was my first dog, and that
I loved
really.
your dog.
Oh, she was
very cute.
She was an awesome dog.
Your little adventure partner.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody seemed to like her. She made friends really easily. And when she passed, I lost it. The bottom fell out, and I was falling and falling and falling. It's weird to try to put it into words, but it made sense to me more than it ever had when people say, I just couldn't get out of bed today. I mean, sure, like you get up because you got it.
That's your baby.
Well, yeah, it was like my kid.
That is your kid.
Yeah. And I have now, since I've gained some perspective, time does heal. It's part of it.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
Because you can be an advocate too at one point when you've had that much pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can be that for someone else because we're like, wow, I get what you're going through.
And that, that was a little over 2 years ago, and I wasn't going to therapy then. And I think that was a big mistake that I made. I think that the process was a lot harder. I think that I took longer. It was grueling because I've really felt alone.
I don't think you probably had the energy to even really have, because that was what it was like for me when I went through that with my friend. I mean, I was a wreck. I think I tried to I did commit myself into the hospital because I lost it, like completely lost it.
Yeah.
And because I had this moment where I looked at all my people that were around me and I was like, okay, I got to go to the hospital. I'm freaking out. Like, this isn't really happening to me.
Well,
and I never got therapy.
I think Lucas put his finger on the pulse of it when he said, I felt alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alone.
You do, and that's what it is. You're right. And that's funny that you say that, because I just in this moment had that realization where I was there in that hospital, and I was like, yeah, that's why I went there, was because I felt alone and I needed somebody who could handle
care for you.
this kind of shit,
Yeah.
because it's
And care
heavy.
for you.
Yeah.
It's heavy stuff when we have loss.
And you know what? This is one of those things that really like bums me out about America. Not that I've lived in other countries, so I don't really have true perspective, but our culture does a real shitty job of dealing with death. Just the concept of death in our country, getting
I agree.
old. You know, I mean, it's pushed aside. Look
Yeah.
young forever. You know, get the pill or the blue whatever. You know, to make
Well,
your dick hard.
pharmaceuticals were ruled by that. Yeah.
All of that.
Find
stuff.
a good surgeon.
Yeah, I mean, all of the things to try
totally
to
true.
to try to help us live longer or whatever.
Right.
But then when we get to that end time, you know, retirement homes, assisted living centers, you know, there are. It's just like, nah, you know, we're done. We're done with all the burden of dealing with an old person.
Right.
We've lost the dignity of dying in this country,
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
especially for our senior population.
Yeah.
I love it when I get to pick up older people. I love making them feel special, and I go offline when we get there so that I can help them, you know, so that I can focus.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, they always, because I ask them questions a lot, they always tell me how lonely
Wisdom.
they are.
Wisdom.
They're just so lonely, and I just want them to feel so loved. It's
Yeah.
so sad to me.
Yeah, and I mean, within our society, because it's just the conversation nobody wants to have. But, and this is the thing that twists me, everybody's gonna do it. Like, we are all going to die.
Yeah,
And
we
I'm
all
not-
started a baby, and then
I'm
we're
not
going to be
trying-
old.
yeah,
and
and
we're
I'm
going
not
to
trying to
die.
be
Gonna
like,
get
oh my God.
older, people. We're all getting older.
Yeah.
Well, it's part of the
Inevitable.
process. Just as beautiful and as amazing and as like wow as birth is, death is just as wow. We've gotten away from it. You know, I did a lot of studying in college, different cultures, and especially focused on Native American stuff and just the way that the society looks at it. And there's a bunch of ways to say that things are how you think they are. Like, your perspective is so pure, and this is kind of bringing it back to where we started with texting and stuff. You can't read a text out of your perspective.
No, you cannot communicate exactly, because you're missing out on your body behavior, eye contact, voice tone. You're missing out on all of the crucial points of communicating
The
something.
hundreds of little facial muscle things that happen.
Nonverbal
Huge.
Hundreds
communication,
of them that we
nonverbal.
don't even realize that
Yes.
we're reading into. And I think that concept of miscommunication leading directly to misunderstanding, you know, our society has that about death, whereas in some of these other cultures that I learned about, it's a circle. I mean, the circle of life. Even, you know, The Lion King just came out again, you know.
Yeah.
I went and cried the whole time
I
and
haven't
smiled
seen
and
it
laughed,
yet.
and it's I love it.
That's why I've heard a lot of adults have really liked that, because we all have seen the original one. So
Well, no, totally. And I mean, in watching that film, I mean, not to go too far off track, but in watching that film, while I was smiling and crying and enjoying the experience of seeing how they redid it, you know, there's new stuff and no spoilers, whatever. But I realized that I was almost like transported back to when I was 16 in Haley, Idaho, working at the Liberty Theater, you know, and our owner's name was John Carson. And it wasn't Johnny Carson, but his voice was on the recording. It was one theater in town. So everybody called to get what was playing. And hopefully I'll do it a little justice here. Tonight at the Liberty at 7, The Lion King, you know, and he'd go off and like talk about the lion, you know, and he'd intro the movie. And I can picture his voice in my head exactly. Like, I can hear it like I hear my favorite song.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Well, it was. You know what's so funny about you saying that is my son was actually ended up getting a job at that same movie theater. And he loves you because of those. He has probably similar memories.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
it triggers things for us.
yeah, your memories
Yeah.
are so pure if you really allow yourself to go back there, you know, and so while I was in the theater watching the film, I'm totally hanging out with this girl that I met at a lake, at night and smoked the only cigarette that I ever really liked in my life. Like that, I was just right in that memory, and while they're Hakuna Matata-ing away. I mean, it was awesome. So backtracking from the Lion King, the circle of life literally is a circle, meaning it's never ending. It always happens. It always goes.
Right.
The beginning and the end are in essence connected. And we like the most of American culture, from my perspective, looks at a line. You start, you live, you die.
Yeah. And then they create the boxes. They create the white picket
Oh, yeah, there's a
fence.
bunch of money to be made at the end.
This is what you're supposed to do
No,
in this
there's
lifetime.
a bunch of money to be made about the 75% mark.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to spend that, the last 25%. It's called 401k.
Oh, God, I don't even know anything about the 401k.
What I was referring to is more the cost of funerals.
Yes.
It's expensive to die.
Yeah,
It is.
It's probably like $8,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, different
More.
states,
You
different
guys
stuff.
can just burn me and whatever.
you can
bury
get a
me.
mushroom suit now.
Oh, I
You
like
can-
the mushroom suit idea.
A fully
I do like the
decomposable
mushroom suit
suit.
idea.
Takes your body down.
I mean, that'll be a whole other discussion
Right.
eventually, I'm sure, because I got lots
I
of
want
things
to learn
say
more
about that. But it's like the death thing that you talk about. So when I was younger, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and so when I left that religion over 20 years ago, so I met Lucas actually right after that. So my brain was swimming, and I was learning how to accept death for the first time, and that was when I met you. So it was very intense. Because I grew up thinking that I was going to live forever on a paradise earth and dance with Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and pet lions and have snakes around me that were poisonous, and it was going to be all fine. That's literally how I felt growing up, and that's what I believed. And then I accepted death for the first time at 22. And actually, it was a huge process for me. It was a lot of things. Yoga really helped me in that time period. Yoga was huge for me in those days. I wish I could find that place again. But I went through a lot, to try to accept that again for the first time in my entire life, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful. It can be a beautiful moment. It's okay to say goodbye.
Yeah.
My uncle recently died. Well, I guess it's probably been a couple of years, but he died on a campground. He was so poor. I love him so much. Shout out to Uncle Art. Anyway, he just had made the decision. He had psoriasis, and he had a lot of medication, and he made the decision. He called everybody and he says, "Okay, this is it. I need you to all come and say goodbye." And so everybody came and said goodbye, and we went and camped with him, and we got him ketchup because all he wanted was hot dogs.
I think we really have more power over our own beings than we really think we do. And just your conversation has taken me back to when my paternal grandmother passed away. And I remember being by her side at the hospital bed, and I whispered into her ear, "It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're all
okay to
okay. You can go." And then she just kind of drifted off peacefully. But I think sometimes we forget about that. We forget that we need to just be there for our loved ones and tell them that it's okay to go back from whence we came, because that's where really where we're
that
going.
may be,
That's really where we're going. And that's a whole nother topic.
It's fun to be able to get together with you guys,
Right?
and just to be able to have this kind of a conversation, because, so I've known Lucas for a long time. Lori and I are neighbors, and we have been 2 years working on our relationship together, but it's really neat to be able to get you two together tonight too, because you guys
the
have
first
never
time,
met for
right?
the first time. And so you kind of, we have these conversations that I get to have in my car every day. I get a unique opportunity in the day to have these conversations. And I think it's very, very special to me to be able to have real conversations so we don't feel as alone. And not all of it's happy and awesome. Some of it's dark. But sometimes when those dark moments happens, that's when you get to see the light. So, but those moments happen through conversation and putting the effort and noticing how people are feeling. So I get to see all these different kinds of people in my car in the day. I mean, from around the world, different ages, different races. It's so beautiful to be able to be in a place where I can just observe, listen, accept, give back to them, and have these moments like we are having right now.
My friends and I like to call that the sea of humanity.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like that.
When you're at festivals and things like we had shared a little bit at dinner this evening, when you're at festivals and you're amongst this group of people,
sometimes it feels so good.
I just like to sit and I'll tell my friends around me, it's just like, shh, let's just shh for a minute and just listen to all of the conversation that's going on around you.
Yeah.
Just try that. Just try that next time you're in a group of people that are excited about life. This is like walking out of a venue. That's my favorite time. It's just like, you know,
when you're walking out of a venue.
When everybody is, I just grab my friend's hands and I say, shh, let's just listen.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, it's so much fun. It brings you back to who you are as a human and everybody else around you and helps you connect. And that's back to texting. That's what we lose through the art of communication, through texting, is that connection, because we don't know where the other human is at that point in time. And we're putting our own perspective, our own emotions into something as simple as okay.
Right. I mean, our world
crazy.
Our world could fall apart, but it could be somebody else's Tuesday.
Right. Right.
Well, to use I really like that, the sea of humanity. I'm gonna do that more now. You know,
Yay.
In that mind, it's like looking at a picture of the ocean compared to being there.
Right.
And the smells and the sounds and the temperature and you know, like
and the ions hitting you in the face.
The salt in the air, all that stuff. You know, one of the things that I do with intention when I'm in relationships, and I mean, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes.
Nobody is.
At even my own what you should do things. You know, if I'm at the store or you're at the store to my my partner at the time or whatever, if one of us is at the store and you need some bread, eggs, or milk, like that's textable information in a relationship. Hey, I'm at the store. Want me to get you some bread and eggs? Actually, yeah, we do need that, or I do need that. Thanks. You know, like that is information.
Yeah.
But hey, we talked earlier, and I want to know how you're feeling about what we talked about. That is not okay text information stuff. Like, don't.
I agree.
If we're gonna get emotional in text, let's at very least do a phone call. And like I said, I mean, I fall into it too, but I've found that when you're doing the text thing or the text arguing or whatever, when you're just texting back and forth, like you're going through all this stuff and the other person has no idea, none. Like it's their Tuesday, like you were saying, Naomi. They have no idea.
They're in their work schedule day, and for me, I can't answer my phone because I'm driving people around, and I think it's super rude as a driver to answer my phone.
Well, yeah,
I'm in meetings all day long. It's like,
and the convenience of it is, I mean, sure, there's definitely positives of texting and blah blah blah, but when you get into trying to actually communicate, I think it just doesn't work. But
I think that it doesn't, like, where nobody's doing it anymore, and I feel like that's where we're at.
Well,
it's like most people are texting.
Exactly the same words, different thing, or different words, same thing.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something that Lucas said, and that's we've even lost the art of the phone call.
Oh yeah, no, we choose
we've
not to.
even
We would
lost the
prefer
art of the
text.
phone
We would
call.
prefer text
Right.
over the actual conversation
Because at least in the phone call, you
most
can
people, I
hear.
would think. I don't know what the actual percentage on that
Oh,
is.
that would be an interesting.
Well, yeah, and we're not trying to they talk like, oh, they're all doing that. I mean,
No.
I fall into these things too.
Oh,
I think
me
what we're talking
too.
about is I at times, and it's surprised me because little story. When I first got my first cell phone, it was in a relationship. My girlfriend was like, "Hey, I got us phones," and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Thanks, I guess." And then this is probably 2002 maybe. People, somebody would send me a text and I'd call them.
The text where you had to push 3 times to get the letter.
S was number 7 for
Right.
Well, I actually.
Just
It
saying.
was more
Yeah,
painful
no.
than text back then,
Yeah.
Lucas,
But
for
when
sure.
when people would text me and I'd get a text from like my buddy Mike or whatever, I would call him. And some people were like, "Why'd you call me?" I'm like, "Well, because you sent me a text. Like I figured you wanted to talk. Like why else are you sending me this message?"
Right.
Because I just wanted to text.
kind of thing. And nowadays I have caught myself when I get a phone call from somebody for whatever reason, like feeling unable to have a phone call with somebody. Like I don't
Yeah,
feel
because
like
you have to think about the effort that it's going to require to have the conversation with that person.
That's part of it. Yeah, part of it is inherent laziness, which frustrates me.
Right.
Part of it is like maybe I feel a little off and I don't want to like put the
Yes.
face on.
Right,
Yes.
You know,
right.
maybe part of it is I really need a lot and I don't want to burden this person. At least that's what I tell myself sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I'll dodge the call, but then you send a text like, "Hey, don't feel bad about me not answering, but here's like some excuse of why I'm not answering right now."
Right. And you can make up any excuse on a text, really.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Because there's
because when you
nothing
don't
behind
have the
it.
Because nobody
conversation, you can't. You're
knows,
not. You're
right.
immediately not really being honest.
So I have a
With the
funny
other
story
person.
too. I'm in my 50s and dating.
And she looks fabulous.
She does.
Fellas.
She does look good.
Oh, stop it.
You would never
Anyway, I'm in my 50s and dating, and I'm on this dating app, and I'm trying to meet this person, and
You're human.
I'm trying to meet this person, and it just becomes easier to text, right? So I send said person my phone number through a text. It's like, I think it'll be easier to communicate through texting, la la la. Next thing I know, he's calling me, and I'm like going,
I don't have my safety buffer. I don't have my safety buffer.
oh, hello? Where do I go?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
okay.
Got me all choked up. Anyway, it was just like, so there's the flip side. There's the flip side of texting and calling when you're not really expecting to get a phone call, because that's where we're at in society now.
But how fun is that?
Oh, it was really fun.
Yeah, I mean that to me, that's
breaking free out of the ground all day.
that's being human.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing that happens. It's not the same.
I
That's
had to give him props for being ballsy, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you're calling me without like my permission.
I thought the same thing when you
Go,
knocked on
boy.
my door. Lori knocked on my door the first, like really how we kind of, really this was actually what made me love her, but she knocked on my door, and we live in apartments where you have to have the key thing to get in because it's locked. So I'm like, oh my God, nobody knocks on our door unless it's a package. But here's this human at my door, and it was now she's my friend and business partner.
I remember.
So I have a
I
question.
remember the way you kind of looked through the door, like,
Oh yeah, because I was holding my dog back.
what do you
Well, and-
want?
No, and I actually have a question, Naomi. What go into a little bit of what all the thoughts you were having. When, okay, so you realized it's a human out there. Like, what did you think was going on?
So the story was that, so I have a pit bull, and as we were talking a little bit earlier, I'm very sensitive. Like I'm on the defensive immediately about my relationship with my breed of the dog that I have. And I just fought for her to get there. And so I know that it affected her life, but we were out walking, I do believe, and she has her little creature, which we love, Brody. And Brody, I mean, they just don't know each other, and I think she had just said something,
Well,
probably
Brody-
just along the line like, oh, is your, I mean, just as you would a stranger that's a new neighbor with another dog, you've got to have those conversations a little bit, but you don't really know somebody. And it was I've had them.
Awkward. It was awkward.
Very awkward. And she was so awesome. And she lived across the hall from me at the time. And after we had that moment, you could tell him the next part. You came over and...
So part of the story is my dog, Brody, who's a Schnauzer Pug mix. We call him a Snug, and yes, he is a Snugglebug.
Looks like a little hyena.
Yeah, he's a creature. He's really not a dog, but that's another story. He had actually been attacked by a couple of pit bulls and a Samoyed. And he's older.
He was older. And he's way more sensitive.
10 at that time.
And my dog's like 5.
And I had just told Naomi when they first moved in, because our stairwell is an L shape. So it's not like you can see straight down if another dog's coming up. And I didn't want our dogs to meet like on a landing.
And in all fairness, my dog doesn't do well with that either.
Right. And so I just said, we need to maybe come up with some sort of communication so our dogs aren't meeting, because I was more afraid of Brody's reaction from his
which is going to
history,
right?
With his history, I didn't know, because he can get a little yippy and growly, even though he's a creature in a small skin. And so, anyway, we had this initial conversation, and I could tell it did not go well. I could tell.
And now that you know me, defensive. You know why. And that's what we're talking about, people, is not actually communicating, because we're feeling all these barriers and these walls.
All these concerns of judgment.
Yeah, she had no idea my history and background and fighting for her.
And she had no idea of Brody's
thing with
history.
Pit bulls. Yeah.
So I could tell it didn't go well. But more importantly, and Naomi and I have talked about this, more importantly, I knew immediately that there was a connection between Naomi and I that needed to be fostered.
Totally.
This wasn't some person, some entities. I'm
like the flower child of the apartment complex.
and Philia that I wanted to ignore. And I subsequently flew to Indiana, where my children are, and my daughter's significant other at that time had a pit bull. And Naomi's dog is Philia, and my daughter's dog was Freya, so I can get the names confused sometimes. But Freya slept with me while I was there, and I remembered something in me said, take pictures. So when Freya and I are in bed, and there's this red and green light glow, and so I'm taking pictures of Freya and I in bed, and my purpose for that was to come back and show Naomi that it's not her dog.
She put the effort, boy.
It's not her dog.
Instant respect.
That was the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I came back and I knocked on her door, and I was nervous. I was really nervous.
And I'm trying to hold my dog back. And then I realized what was happening, because I wasn't sure what was going to happen either. I was like, whoa, now she's going to my door. What is going on?
Right. So I'm at her door, and I'm saying, I want you to know. I want you to really know it's not your dog. It's not your breed of dog that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's my dog's reaction to your dog.
And that is totally fair.
Well, yeah, that's survival.
And that's
a natural...
That's knowing that as a dog mama.
Yes.
I love pit bulls, and I slept with my daughter's pit bull, and here's the pictures.
And my pit bull loves her, too.
Slide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's where the real shit started.
It is the real shit started. We're totally sharing that first moment with us, because we all know that other people have had that same moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we are very, as you well know, Lucas, very protective of our dogs. Like, they're
absolutely.
our kids.
Yeah.
And so, that's
well, this is a circle of life right now. We're all talking about our dogs and how we've protected them, and how the dogs have really kind of brought us together.
Yeah. Dogs are
right here tonight.
Creatures.
Well, and because we're talking about this, in addition, like this is kind of a subtle subject that's in there, but it's, I think, really important to talk about pit bulls in general and their breed and what they're not. you know. And I'll
love
share a
hippos.
quick pit bull story too. I think will then make my point even more solid. My dog Mary and I were down in Eugene for some business conference thing. There was a bunch of people getting together, small business owners, just kind of talking and jiving and, you know, doing some support. And we were all at one of the business's actual business place, and we're going to go inside and check out the things that they were doing. Well, the door was glass, and I see this American pit, nose right to the glass, looking outside. And I kind of couldn't see a whole lot of its body, so I didn't know where the tail was necessarily wagging or, you know, intent.
And you also got to be careful because there's a barrier, and you don't know how animal's going to react to a barrier.
No, totally. So I see this, and I think, hey, sweet, dog-friendly building. I mean, it's cool anyway because Mary's a super cool dog, but dog-friendly building, so this should be fine. Well, the door opens, and the pit goes straight out, and they start doing the circle sniffing butt thing, but really quick. And I'm probably, yep, see, Naomi knows.
Yeah.
I'm probably 20, 25 feet from, 20 feet from them, and I'm already
breaking out
moving.
in sweat.
I'm already moving in, right? And the other humans are just kind of like, oh, dogs. And so they stop and get nose to nose, and now they're both growling. And I didn't realize this until after the fact.
Immediately.
The dog was actually nipping her legs to the point of bleeding. So I didn't see that part or get that part until later, right? So and then they're growling, and so now I'm 10, 7, 5 feet away. I'm right close, and I yell, and I can be pretty loud when I need to. I yell, "Hey!" real loud, kind of low, gruffy, like a dog bark kind of thing.
Sometimes
I yell.
You do need to do that to be the dominant one in the dog's
exactly.
life. And that's the truth.
I was taking the alpha position, and I ideally to both of them. Well, I yell. Mary's a good dog, so she looks up to her right at me. And the dog immediately jumps in and locks down on her cheek, basically.
Oh, Lord.
So, and then they don't let go unless you stick your finger in their butt.
Well, there are a few ways to do it.
Or choke them out.
Water.
No. Here's what happened. And I really think I learned something here. The owner was coming out, and her intention was to grab and try to pull, which is not what you want to do at all.
Right. Because then they're loose skin.
And then in telling this story to somebody else who has had a lot of pits, he's like, yeah, you just grab the throat. And in some of these crisis type moments, I'm one of those people where everything goes super slow motion. But
same.
But I'm still thinking in real time. So I'm thinking really quick for the moment, right? And it's all clear.
Yep.
So I think I could grab its throat. Nope, that's not fair because I have thumbs and it doesn't. That's not a fair fight. That was just my thought. The next thought was, well, I could just grab its eyes and just gouge the eyes out. That'll stop it. I mean, it would have, but again, same thing. I have thumbs. It doesn't, not fair. So my third thought was, well, okay, so you're a dog. What does a dog do? And a parent dog will.
Oh, you bit it.
In the nose.
Yeah.
I got down.
Yeah.
I had its upper and lower jaw in my hands. I looked it right in the eye, and it was looking at me like, oh, shit. And I had tried to pull it apart, no go. So I reached down with my teeth.
Yeah.
And I pinched its skin like a grandma pinch as hard as I could without breaking the skin. And I do body work and massage therapy, so I know a lot about skin tension. And I got right to that point, and I'm sure it fucking hurt. It hurt.
Well, because their ears are sensitive. So yeah.
Kind of thing.
No, you're right. That actually
and then
is
it let
a better
go.
thing to do.
When it let go, Mary pulled back. The dog instinctually closed its mouth, and it got me a little bit. And then the dogs were separated, the owner, and then things went from there.
Yeah.
All that being said, I absolutely do not dislike pit bulls.
Me either.
Now, if I see an American pit, I'm a little more aware of that, but I also, through the way the process played out in insurance and stuff.
Well, because they have the ability to cause a lot of damage if they are not raised in a good environment. You got to be aware.
It's the human's fault.
Right.
That's the short.
Ban the man, not the breed.
That's the human's fault.
The man,
it's not the dog's fault if it was brought up the wrong way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have my pit here, and as you guys know, I fought for her, and we actually had this guy move in with 2 pits, and he's the type of guy who shouldn't have pits. And when I went, and this guy does not live here anymore, but his dog got off leash and came, and I just cornered my dog and laid in between them, basically, so nothing would happen, and nothing did. Because I've had a lot of experience with pit bulls, and so I just knew how to brace myself and my dog, because my dog wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
And when I went to the management, I was like, it's not the dog's fault, it's the guy's fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, that was how we met. This is how this all started. was kind of actually the whole thing that we've been talking about tonight is just
Communication.
and getting past that fear of
Right.
how that other person may react to you communicating.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we all have that voice of judgment in our head, and I think we are our harshest and worst critics. You know,
Yeah.
other people, and I mean, I have to remind myself of this and work on it, but other people really would prefer to love you than hate you.
Most people.
Well,
Most
yeah,
people.
most.
Yeah.
I mean,
But the
there-
ones
there
who
are all
don't
sorts of
haven't had
exceptions.
enough love.
No, I'll take that back. All people. I mean, if
All
we go
people,
if we
yeah.
go to our innate spiritual being that we were born
Well, the
through our
source,
mothers,
the divine love.
we go to that person, we all have a purpose, and that purpose is to love and to serve the greater good.
Yeah. I agree. Well, it's like to
That's
wake
our
up and don't
soul's
be an
purpose.
asshole, for starters. If
For-
you want to break it down
yeah.
simply, wake up and don't be an asshole.
Let's be a nice old.
Let's be a nice hole. Yeah, I love coming up with. I came up with that driving in Portland. Be a nice hole.
Be a nice hole.
But it's true. It's like just we have no idea what people are going through, and we've been talking about. We've lost the art of communication. We have a lot of fear built up around the actual act of it, and I really think that we need to start getting past that. I have to say, in my ride sharing business, I have a special opportunity that I get to have with 20 to 25 different people, different ages, all around the world, like I said. It's beautiful to have these moments with people. And you know what? Some of these moments that I get to have, we change each other's day, the course of the day, or maybe even life. Like, I had a guy in my car today who was actually kind of feeling stuck in the Groundhog Day, and because I was all fired up listening to Joe Rogan this morning, I was feeling all super stoked and inspired. And I was like, what are you good at? Write a list. You know, I was just like, I don't know this person. I was like, well, what do you do? I was like, wow, it sounds like you have a lot of experience in this. Like, maybe you could use that in something that you want to do. And it was... And even just through a little communication and conversation about where I was and how I was feeling and the things that I was, kind of into right now. And it was like, yeah, he goes, yeah, I kind of forgot that. Thank you. And so you can actually have 20 minutes with somebody and you can connect with your third eye. You connect with this person. You connect with your community. And that's how we start building community tribe.
Yeah.
Tribe.
Support each
Or
other.
you can just sit there
Tribe,
and drive.
yes.
Which, as a rider of rideshare, sometimes you get in the car and those. I try to do the same thing from the rider's position.
Oh, yeah, I love
I
hearing
try
this
to
stuff.
have a conversation on the reel with the driver. And
I bet
sometimes
you do, Lucas. You would be my favorite kind of customer.
Oh, you guys made me snort. Real
was
shit
actually
happens.
I was gonna start recording the conversations just because some of them get so raw and just I don't know,
it's amazing.
But, yeah, so yes, I try to engage like that as a rider, and in the rides where for whatever reason I don't or the other person doesn't, you're just sitting there in the car, and I mean you're still there and you're still at least sharing space, but it's just so bland.
To me, as a driver, and you know me, Lucas, and now you know me, Lori, I really get, and I know that I'm speaking for myself because I know a lot of drivers out there don't like to do this. But for me, when you get in the back of my car, or actually it's even weirder when you sit in the front.
Oh,
you
yeah, I never
choose
get
to-
in the front as a
No.
rider.
So,
Me
Lucas,
either.
this happens to me. This is what gets me the most. I am very sensitive. So if you sit in the front, like you actually go out of your, because 90% of my passengers sit in the back right side behind me.
Right.
Yeah, that's the
And
spot.
that's the spot. But they sit in front and then they take the actual physical act of choosing to ignore me. They will put headphones on or pass out. I've had
In the front
really
seat?
big, yes, I've had
Whoa.
really big guys get in the front seat and totally pass out.
That's another topic.
Or they put their headphones on and choose to ignore me. And I'm like, if you're going to sit in the front,
That's another topic.
if you're going to
That's
choose
called
to ignore me,
ego.
sit in the fucking back.
That's called
Sit in the
ego.
back. So, but even when they are sitting in the back, for me, because I enjoy having these conversations. I love having these moments with people. And I feel like it's super special opportunity to do so. In the commute of your life, it's like getting out of that, breaking free from, oh, we're just commuting right now. I'm like, wow, we just traveled the world. Thank you. What traffic, you know? I mean, because when you have a real conversation with somebody, you just like, you realize like, wow, you just like went through all that traffic with nothing because you just had the best time having this conversation. But when they sit in the back and they don't talk and they're just, I literally look back constantly. Yeah. This is me personally. I look back to see. Sometimes if I feel driven to say it, I'll be like, you doing all right back there? Or I'll just say random shit along the drive if they're super quiet or plugged into their phone. I'm like, wow, look at that tree. That's so cool. Or I'll notice like the baby wood. I actually stopped the car and I was like, look at the baby woodpecker. I mean, I actually saw a baby woodpecker today, and this girl, I was like, see? And I didn't move until she saw. And she's like, oh, I see it. So it's really, if you take
I love you,
these
Naomi.
moments to share, I mean, wow, what a ride. And you just were doing your commute to work, but you have that choice. It's like, oh, we get super plugged in. And by the way, this will be another conversation. They get plugged into their social media world, which you are being manipulated, people. We will talk about this later. But the advertisements and the articles you are seeing are definitely zoned in on the type of person you are. And so they're sucking you in, and you're missing out on having these conversations with really cool people. Or maybe you're both awkward and you just are the one that sparks the conversation, and then you change that person's day. And then he realizes, wow, this is kind of cool to like connect with people as a driver. Change it up, people. Have the conversation, spark it. Say hello. Be authentic when you say hello.
Authentic. And in the word authentic, I just want to say, sometimes we get nuggets of wisdom, or at least in my life, I get nuggets of wisdom from people I don't even know in my own social circle or my family circle. It's somebody that's just like talking to me and I'm like, wow, that's profound. I want to write that down. I want to remember that. And I hope, my prayer is that sometimes somebody gets those nuggets of wisdom from me too, and not necessarily in my social circle or my family circle, just somebody that I'm having a conversation with.
Well, that goes back to going to therapy. You go to therapy because this person's trained on giving you tools to manage super stressful moments in your life and serious trauma. These things that we're going through, these people are tuned into that. They give you the tools. So also doctors, we go to our doctors, we tell our doctors, but even some people won't even tell their doctors all of the information because they're embarrassed of their behavior.
Right.
But the reality is we've come so far from talking about like what we're into, really, fetishes, sexual behavior, all of these things. We are told not to talk about our bodies, how we're feeling, what we're into.
Especially women.
Well, I think men too. I actually think that we don't know enough about that side.
I'll give you that.
And I'm really looking forward to actually getting input from men on that as well, because I think that men have to be tough all the time and they don't get to get in tune with their feminine side without being gay. Well,
that's why I dropped the cry bomb early talking about Lion King. Like, I'm right there with you, Naomi.
Exactly.
Men are supposed to be tough.
Yeah.
We're supposed to, like, man up. I mean, it's a saying even, man up, I look forward to talking about this more in depth, but...
Yeah, we'll have you back, Lucas. This has been fun.
Cool. I really appreciate it. Like, one of my favorite things to do is go read a really good book in a bar. Because I have a hard time going to places by myself, or if I do, I just feel like...
you have something to do, right?
Well, for me, it gives me something to do, but I say a really good book, one that brings out emotion in me, because if I'm reading by myself, like, I just go through it, and, like, sometimes I'll laugh about it or whatever, but I find that if I'm in that social setting and I read a funny part, I'll laugh out loud. Like, for real, laugh out loud.
Yeah.
And I just finished, tonight, actually, a book called Liar by Rob Roberge. and it is a really, really awesome read. And it says like a year or a date, and then it's either a paragraph or a few pages about just some stuff that went down in his life, and he was a writer and a rock star and a drug addict, and he just goes.
Yeah, felt it. Creative.
So at one point, I'm reading this book, and I get to a part, and it really touched me, and so I'm literally crying, tears falling on the pages, in a bar, hanging out with myself around these people, and then like the next excerpt made me laugh. I was like, and these two people look up at me and kind of look at me, and for a moment they're like, is he okay? But because I have the book, then I'm not quote unquote crazy.
Right, right.
I mean, like, because it's crazy to laugh out loud at stuff. I mean, anyway. So I end up, they're kind of looking up at my drink, and I had a CBD seltzer. And I actually got it to look at the label, and because I do some cannabis industry work, so I'm always interested to see how these products present themselves and the sourcing and all the stuff that me as a consumer I would be looking for. And the couple, there was an older couple, probably in their 60s, and they were just like really looking at the beverage and really and so I kind of slowly they were looking at it and not me, and I just picked it up and kind of turned it and held it closer, and then they both kind of looked at me like, oh, sorry for looking at your stuff, But then we had a 10-minute conversation about CBD, and my side of the conversation was more about the marketing and the branding and aspect of advertising and sales, as opposed to it being a functional thing. So I'm like, I could drink this whole thing, for example, and it's really not going to do much to me, but it's marketed such that people will pay $5 for this can of basically seltzer water.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we just had this cool little go-to conversation, and I don't think a lot of people are talked to straight about stuff because they're being sold stuff,
Oh, yeah.
That's another topic.
One. Yeah.
Welcome back to our next podcast.
We definitely, I think that one thing that we did pretty well at tonight was just trying, we had different examples of trying to spark conversation. Listen before you speak. That's a big one. Listen before, think about it before you text.
Right.
Really think. Both. Put the effort.
Yeah.
Put the effort. I don't need to have you abbreviating everything.
Put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah, if you're gonna do a text, put some more thought into it. I always thought that it would be a good idea to have a math equation that you had to do after you sent the text.
Before.
Or before,
yes.
Yes, pardon me. Before you sent the text, so that if you couldn't figure it out, a pretty simple one too, then you can't send it.
Especially after 1 or 2 a.m. on a Friday or Saturday morning.
Or even if you're not out of the ability to do the equation, just giving yourself that 5 to 10 seconds of
pause.
Yeah, just hold on. You're having an emotional reaction to something, most likely. Let the emotion happen. Doesn't mean that you have to communicate right away, especially via text. I'm so mad at you or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't go through. It doesn't go through the way we intended to.
WTF.
It doesn't go through the way we intended to.
Right.
So I am kind of a dork. I like weird stuff, and I was a good student because I thought it was fun to finish the assignments and stuff. Anyway, I got good at grammar. I actually kind of figured out some grammar, American grammar language, right? So I will attempt to use exclamation points and commas, and without using pictures. I smiley face a lot, but if I winky face, that means what you just read is supposed to be sarcastic. And I don't think anybody knows that. But
I do.
Right? but I try to send that out.
I do the same emoji. Yeah. But I said, I'm pretty basic. I send 3
I do
emojis
the same,
out.
Lucas. I try to use punctuation so people get what I'm really trying to say.
Okay.
Without all the
you can capitalize.
But so check it out. Mark. That is exactly part of the issue that we're talking about tonight. Right? Yeah. Because you're using the language that if you were to receive, it would make perfect sense to you.
Right.
If I sent you a grammatically correct text using semicolons and I used the ... at the right point because I meant for you to go, and then keep reading, right? Yeah. Well, that means that we literally speak using the same language, right?
What?
But as an example, somebody who is right now okay, I'll just with my niece in mind. She's in her teens. She's in high school. To her, it doesn't matter how many exclamation points they use or what. Like, her language is different. It's not wrong. It's just different. But that's why
it's just different.
Unless you're willing to put
you have to know your audience is basically what we're saying here a little bit.
And even when you do, texting can still be misread.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because my friends, my really good friends, I can send some different things across text that I would not send to my professional people that I'm trying to text. So you do need to know your audience a little bit.
But I think that's part of the skill too when you're talking to people.
Right.
So for me, when I'm driving, I actually talk about this all the time. I change my driving style to who's in my car.
Wow, you're good.
I would really like you as a writer as well.
You're good.
I can tell if you think that I can handle being a little bit more assertive or not.
Yeah, or
I
you
can
definitely
tell
need to
if
be
you're
going
in
the
a
speed
hurry
limit.
or not.
So what's my driving style, Naomi?
I actually
Your riding style.
it's like kind of like you and my best friend Lonnie here. I'm pretty calm when I'm driving with you guys in the car. I don't like to do the sudden movements. I don't like jerk over into the lane. I'm always looking twice before I get over. Like, I'm pretty safe because I know that I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is actually a good conversation
I just
to
gave
have.
you namaste
my
hands.
feeling is that you are a little more nervous when things are all happening around and we're all doing these things. And so by my driving style to be calmer and just chilling and being aware is going to make your ride more pleasant.
Thank you.
So I would do that for you. And that's what I do for you.
You have read me.
Yay, I did it.
Exactly.
Did I tell you guys I'm a professional driver?
Yes, you are.
So I'm curious of both of your thoughts in this. Like, how somebody who, say, doesn't understand how to practice being conscious and aware and listening well, like doing all the things that we're kind of talking about, what should be happening, what would make community more vibrant and more present for everybody. What do you think we could throw out to the listeners as maybe
step number one,
or like a something to try? Like maybe have you tried this? Have you tried?
For me, on my personal journey of moving forward with my life, step number one, I named her Lego. Lego is my ego, Lori's ego, if you can put that together. And I really started focusing on what our ego's job is to protect us. And they do a really, 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 really good job of yapping in our head all day long on what you should say, what you should do, what you should have said, what you could have done. So for me, it's just being aware.
You gave her a name.
I did. I gave her a name, and
you're aware of her presence.
I'm aware of her presence. So that's step number one, is just being aware. And I named her because that makes it easier for me to set that bitch in the passenger seat and tell her to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
I really dig that.
Right.
I really do.
Right.
So step number one for all our listeners out there is name your ego.
Name your ego, and then
I think it's a great practice.
And put her in the corner when she needs to be put in the corner.
Right.
It makes it easier too. If you can call the name out, be like, Lego, you know what?
Lego.
Not right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
And I tell her this is one of my key tools, is when she's like yapping. Like I know I have to have a conversation with somebody, and she's like, okay, you need to say this, you need to say that, and I'm like, Lego, save it for when the person's in front of me. Then you can feed me those words. But right now, it's not the time.
Yeah, that's great.
Right?
That's really cool. I've never heard that before.
Thank you.
I think that's a really cool. I mean, for all y'all
that's
listening
my
out there,
best tool.
If you haven't tried it,
try it.
How about this?
Yeah.
Send us in if you don't have an ego name. Well, if you do too, if you have one, send us your ego name. Be interesting to hear.
Idea.
If you don't have an ego name, because everybody does have an ego, whether you like it or not, name your ego, or maybe tell us about why you're having trouble naming your ego. I mean, I'm going to do this too, because my ego doesn't have a name, and I'm going to have to think about this.
So, yeah, we've got a forum for you folks out there. We've got a forum on our website where you can jump in on some of these conversations. We will start one that's Name Your Ego, and that's where you guys can place that to give us some feedback on what you guys think about that. So we'll add that to the forum. But there's some other ones on there, too. If you could add it in those places, you're more than welcome to do that. So just so you know, you can visit us at therealshit.net, and that's where you find that place.
I'm going to be checking out that website tonight.
Okay, so for me, I think using this description or illustration would be the word for it. I think if we can come into the state or practice of saying, okay, we can't control the things that we can't change. We can't change the things we can't control, right? So like traffic, for example, or anything in your life, but say traffic, for example. So I'm feeling stuck in traffic. And so basically what I have done immediately when I started doing this as a job, instead of feeling stuck in traffic because this was going to be my life for the next couple of years, I started playing this one song called Miles Apart. And it literally talks about being in your car side by side, but miles apart. So it's talking about the disconnection in the world. So basically, because it's such an incredible message to this song, I was like, wow, I'm not feeling stuck in traffic anymore. I'm like, you guys are stuck in traffic. I'm like, are you hearing this shit? So if I could say one thing, and this is a good reminder for yourself each day, is if you can't change the things you can't control, then you have the power to change your attitude.
Right.
So you can actually make that choice
Absolutely.
to make that moment that's out of your control a better experience for you. And so what that requires is finding the tool that works for you. The things that make you react, the things that make you trigger to things and make you tick out or whatever, get upset, you find that tool that's going to immediately adjust your attitude and change it. And you will find, like me, that over time, I don't even have to hear the song anymore. When I'm starting to feel stuck, I have to tell you guys, immediately that emotion of the feeling stuck goes into the other things, like where I'm thinking more positive, because I've trained my brain to start thinking positive rather than trying to, get upset about that moment.
And that brings us back to full circle, which is words. Words is where we started.
Yeah.
So you can go from doubt to faith. You can go from worry to joy.
Yeah.
You can go from control to surrender.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that one.
Right? That's a big one.
Yeah. But we know ourselves really well.
It's the words we put in our head
Yeah.
that allow us to continue our
And
own
we are the ones
journey.
in control of that.
And you get to control whether you want to be in worry, doubt, and
fear. Yeah.
or if you want to be in faith, joy, and allowing.
Yeah.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most frustrating parts about all that is that it does work.
It works.
And it's free. And it's actually as simple as, you know what? Yeah, all the things that that are bumming me out, all that negative, all that ego talk, all that stuff. And there's also a sun outside, or maybe it's raining.
Yeah.
Well, so then there's also rain outside. I mean, there's always a way that you can look at it, and it can be simply a different perspective. Maybe it doesn't make everything all better.
We
Maybe it
all
doesn't
have
solve any
choice.
problems.
We all have choice.
And I say that this is the most frustrating thing because it is for me. And sometimes when I get reminded of it by people that care about me, like my mom especially, she's like, just, like maybe like if you could just look at it from a positive perspective, or if you could, like it's not that bad. Like instead of where you're at, maybe where you're gonna be. Like, she's totally one of my cheerleaders. And
Yay, Mom.
yeah. And it's hard because it does work. It's hard because all you have to do is do it, and then it does get better. And for me, I struggle with, I think, my ego being like, well, no, but if we're not focused on these problems, they'll never get better. Well, the only way you're going to get through it is to actually be in that positive mindset, because I can't work when I'm all upside down. I can't focus on stuff and be creative. Mm-hmm. But when I get a positive perspective on things. Like instead of, oh crap, I have to do laundry. Sweet, I have a reason to ride my bike a little bit and read a book.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the days where I think of, crap, I got to do laundry, it piles up and it feels like a huge burden.
So I'm glad you brought it to that. And I think this might be where we might want to consider wrapping it up, is the word work. Because it is a work. It is a work. You get to choose every day whether you want to be in misery or if you want to be in joy.
Yeah, if you want to whistle while you work.
If you want to be in worry or if you want to be in faith. But it is a work, and that work is called awareness. And it's awareness of not only the words that we're being told by other people, more importantly, in my perspective, it's the words I'm being told to myself.
Yeah.
And I have that choice. I have that choice every moment of every day if I'm listening to the negative or the positive, because they're both there.
And if you have those moments too, and I want you to, those of you who are listening, those moments when you can't get to that place, I do understand that.
Yes.
I do understand that.
Reach out.
And some people are not able to reach out. And so, you know, for some of you who have those really super happy friends most of the time, reach out to them too, because those are the ones who usually actually commit suicide. They won't tell you. They can be the happiest ones on the outside, but there's the ones who end up killing themselves. So just reach out, you guys. Put the effort. You know, even the tiniest effort right now in the world that we live in would make a huge difference. But more importantly, put the effort into yourself.
In yourself,
if you can.
yes.
It's like the line in my song that I love. Sometimes you got to give yourself a hug, just a reminder to you that you deserve love.
I think that's where we peace out tonight, people.
Sometimes you got to give yourself a hug. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Let's Talk About the Real Shit. We're just starting to get into the nitty gritty. Thank you so much, Lucas, for coming and seeing me and hanging out.
Lucas. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun seeing you again. And we want to have you a couple times back because we want to tap into some of the weed world that you know about. We know you're pretty good at that and amongst other things. So we're looking forward to having you back. Thank you.
Me too. Absolutely. Thank you both.
Yay. All right, people, spark those conversations. We love you.
Love you, Brother Bear. Love you, Sister Bear.